Is Ethereum actually about to have a bombshell drop that fraud is worse than FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried? Well, that's one of the top headlines this morning. It's not necessarily a heavy news day, but if this was true, if Ethereum is actually committing fraud, if Vitalik and other founders are some of the biggest crooks in the world, especially in the crypto world, that would not only be catastrophic for Ethereum, but much of the crypto ecosystem. In fact, I think Bitcoin would continue to do its thing throughout the bull market. But if Ethereum is really that fraudulent, we could see altcoins absolutely be destroyed and possibly never trusted again. Now, these are allegations at this point. This is not true. Let's in fact go over and take a look at the article this morning talking about this fraud case, and let's examine some of the details. So this is an article put out this morning. Ethereum Insider says fraud revelations will come in weeks, not months. Now, a lot of us have heard some of these rumors, these allegations, but let's see what's actually being said in the article itself. Now, the person that we're talking about, Steven Narioff, I think that's how it's pronounced, but he's a former attorney, former advisor to Ethereum. He says that Ethereum is the fraudulent elephant in the room in plain sight, 1,000 times bigger than SBF. For months, Narioff has been hinting at his efforts to compile and publish evidence that could heavily implicate Ethereum's founders Vitalik Buterin and Joe Lubin. His recent statements indicate a nearing accumulation of these efforts. Now, this article goes on. You guys can go ahead and read it. It is by the article is from the Bitcoinist. It was written this morning by Jake Simmons. Here is the thing. We have learned very valuable lessons recently in crypto that just because rumors are circulating does not mean that they're necessarily true. There is such a thing called FUD. We also know that a lot of people, especially when you're a former employer, former founder, former analyst, whatever it is, you could have a lot of alternative meanings or purposes to go after your former company. So on those things just alone, we do have to wait for the actual evidence to come out before you can actually say guilty or not guilty. In this article, he also lists one of his reasons for saying that Vitalik is so guilty, is because of the silence. Because Vitalik and Joe, they're not responding whatsoever. They're being extremely silent. That is their admission of guilt. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain this to you. Being silent is not an admission of guilt. In fact, it actually is a show of maturity to not stoop into something that at this point has no legs to it whatsoever. It also could be something that their lawyers are telling them. Even if you are 1,000% innocent, sometimes just speaking on an issue is something that could absolutely destroy you in court. And if these allegations, true or false, end up coming into light and things get really big, this is something that might go to court. So in fact, this is not an admission of guilt. I think this is extremely wise by Vitalik and Joe to not say a single word under the advisement, more than likely, of their current lawyers. That's just a good move. At the end of the day, I think this is a lot of FUD. I do want to see what the evidence is. And again, according to this article, we're talking about it's coming out in a couple of weeks. Not months, but weeks. And whether it's true or not, this is something that could continue to suppress the price action of Ethereum, of Bitcoin, of crypto. And in fact, this morning, I'm not saying this is what's to blame, but we are seeing dips in prices this morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the price action happening. Now, Bitcoin finding a little bit of a bounce. In fact, I think a lot of things are finding a little bit of a bounce this morning, but you will see that Bitcoin once again has lost this blue level of support that was the rising level of support in that bullish pennant. Technically speaking, we're still setting higher lows here since this fall after the initial surge up above 35,000. We have fallen back down. We fell back down here towards 33,000, and now we're still setting these higher lows. But losing that support level is something definitely to keep your eye on. Let's go ahead and go up to the daily chart. Let's go to the 4-hour chart to take a look at this. Let's see what the oscillators are saying this morning. RSI is back down low, but we're not necessarily seeing flashes of saying that we are oversold just yet. In fact, one of the first things that usually triggers is this MVP oscillator from Chart Prime with these green histograms. We're not seeing any green histograms this morning, at least on the 4-hour chart. I do think if you go down to the hourly chart, you will see a couple of them, and you are seeing the oversold flash right there. That is why we do have this most recent candle. Even though it's just a sliver, it's turning green. Why? Because after this fallback in price action, the bulls are finding a little bit of room to buy up. But the problem is in downward movements, you're going to see on these lower time frames the places where the price pauses, maybe makes a small bounce to the upside. But as a whole, as you move back out here towards larger timelines that have been overextended for a long time now, daily charts still sitting well above the 70 on RSI, well above the mid-level on the chart prime oscillator. These are the ones that concern you because there's a lot of room below us if the bears continue to pick up momentum. Again, I'm not even going to blame all of it on the news about the Ethereum fraud. This is just time that, we've gotten massively overextended after an amazing rally here. Again, Bitcoin rallying over, let's see, what's the exact percentage? I don't want to just speculate here. Back, if you go to early October, we have rallied 36%, give or take, on Bitcoin. An amazing, amazing rally. The problem is, these things come with retracements. And as it speaks right now, I still think a move back down, at least back down to 33,000, if not back down to 32 to 31, is still within the cards on Bitcoin. And we're starting to see the beginning momentum pieces of that larger move to the downside happen. But I do want to see a couple of things. I want to see if we can hold this descending red level, which was the resistance of the pennant. At this point, the pennant isn't looking like a very positive thing. I'm not seeing the bull pennant play out here. This more than likely is kind of the finishing touches of what our Bart Simpson's pattern looks like, but I want to see if the bulls can gain some support when they get back down to this level around 34, probably somewhere around 34,400, give or take. Let's take a look at some other things this morning. Let's go down all the way to the hourly chart. Let's see what's happening here. We are below the hourly dynamic reactor. We do have the green band coming up down here towards 34,200. So can we keep above that level and stay in the middle? You can see we really haven't touched this green band in a long time. In fact, the last time we touched into the green was all the way back here October 12th, way back when things were not necessarily looking good. This is before all the hype came out, the fake information about the ETFs, and we had a massive rally. We have not been in that green band for a while, so I do think that if we do come down and touch that green band, while that technically is a level of support, it's also a sign of weakness for the bulls that have been so good at staying out of that zone. Keep an eye on what is happening there for sure. Let's take a look at some other coins. Of course, yesterday, XRP had a big day, but after it kind of topped out here, we got up to about 73.3 cents. We did wick down 11%, all the way down to 65 cents. Now we are kind of hovering right in a middle zone, back up towards 70 cents, but not quite there. Right now we're at 68 cents. Let's take a look at what those oscillators are saying. Hourly chart kind of, we're lower, but not screaming oversold. There could be more room coming to the downside. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the 4-hour chart is overextended for sure. We are seeing some green histograms here, so buying, potentially people are buying here just a little bit. Do we get another bounce to the upside? I think it would still be interesting. Again, I'm not saying we have to, but we stopped at 73.3 when there was a lot of pressure that possibly could have seen us go all the way up towards 75 cents. In fact, let's go and take a look at that. Going back to the high we had here just a couple of months ago. Let's look at our Fibonacci levels. I do believe it's Fibonacci that takes us up. Yeah, golden pocket barely right up above us at 75 cents. Doesn't mean we have to hit it, but it's interesting that we stopped just that short of it, a very significant level. The only thing you could say is, well, did we stop there because of the resistance back at the end of July we had back here, where we topped out at 73 cents? That might be a reason why that top came in. But right now, XRP, it does look like it's cooling off after a very explosive run. The other coin that had a very good run yesterday was, of course, Cardano. It, too, is having a little bit of a cooling off period. After topping out here, not just a little short. This is another one, just a little short of the price we kind of gave it to rematch the highs back here in July on the 13th. We didn't quite get up to that 37.9 cents. We topped out somewhere right here around 37.5. It's close. In fact, you might even say that's close enough for government work right there. It does look like we've taken a little bit of dip this morning. In fact, we are down right now about 8% from that high. Let's take a look at what the oscillators are saying for Cardano. Same thing we're seeing kind of an XRP. Green histograms coming in on the 4-hour chart, kind of saying, hey, this might be a chance to regroup. But you can clearly see based off the oscillators, RSI and chart prime oscillator, there definitely is still room to the downside. What I would expect is for us to pause at this level, both XRP and Cardano, pausing at this level makes a lot of sense, at least for the next couple of hours. Sometimes these green histograms don't necessarily mean price has to go back up. On downward movements, they would just imply, hey, we're going to pause right here for a little second, get some breather, decide, do we want to make another push to the upside or do we want to fall? So right now, I would expect if you're kind of sitting here, continue to look for other signs, but don't be surprised if in a couple of hours, we're still hovering right here around that 34.5-cent region, somewhere in that range here on Cardano. Guys, that's all I have for you today. Not necessarily too much else happening in the news for me to cover in this video. Of course, T-Shroom will be going live here in just a couple of minutes at 9 a.m. with the rest of the news. However, right now, we are seeing a lot of red in the crypto space. We have had explosive rallies more recently, but all rallies come with retracements. Are we going to see them be significant like past years where we have massive rallies and then massive dump-offs in these pre-bull market settings? Or is this simply a small retracement, setting a higher low, and we're regrouping for another good push? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. What are your price targets, bearish or bullish, for all of these coins? And also go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more just like them. With that said, guys, you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.